Welcome to the TheSpiritGuides.co.uk network radio. This week's guest is Nigel Kerner, screenwriter, journalist and author of The Song of the Greys and Grey Aliens and the Harvesting of Souls. He's joined today with Dr Andrew Silverman, who will be discussing later on in the show the Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin is a centuries-old linen cloth that bears the image of a man that appears to be Jesus. Dr Silverman touches upon new research that could indicate the cloth is actually genuine. He's also joined with Professor John Biggerstaff, Associate Research Professor of Cell Biology. Anyway, just to read the synopsis from the back of the book, as it kind of sums up pretty well what the talk is all about. In 1997, Nigel Kerner first introduced the notion of aliens known as the Greys coming to Earth, explaining that Greys are sophisticated biological robots created by an extraterrestrial civilization they have long since outlived. In this new book, Kerner reveals that the Greys are seeking to master death by obtaining something humans possess that they do not: souls. Through the manipulation of human DNA, these aliens hope to create their own souls and thereby escape the entropic grip of the material universe in favour of the timeless realm of spirit. Kerner explains that genetic manipulation by the Greys has occurred since biblical times and has led to numerous negative qualities that plague humanity, such as violence, greed, maliciousness. Racism, he contends, was developed by the aliens to prevent their genetic experiments from being compromised by breeding with others outside their influence. Examining historical records, Kerner shows that Jesus, who represented an uncorrupted genetic line, warned his disciples about the threat posed by these alien interlopers, while Hitler, a pure product of this alien intelligence, waged genocide in an attempt to rid Earth of all those untouched by the genetic tampering. Despite the powerful grip the Greys have on humanity, Kerner says that all hope is not lost. Greys exist wholly in the material world, so if we follow the spiritual laws of reincarnation and karma, aiming for enlightenment, we can free ourselves from their grasp. Just say a very warm welcome to Spirit Guides Radio. We are very open-minded radio. I know we've got the spirit in the title, but really it's more about a greater consciousness, nothing whatsoever to do with religion or anything like that. It's about really opening the mind to the greater reality, really.
Yes.
You guys have come to me with your theory on what the grey aliens have been up to. I just would like really for you just to give me a bit of background around the new book that you've written.
Yeah. I'll do that, yes. Well, as I say, it all started quite innocuously at a cricket match one day. My great love in sport is cricket, and I was watching a cricket match, and my little boy came up to me, he was 12 at the time, and he asked me, "Dad, are UFOs real?" And my first instinct was to tell him it's a load of Mickey Mouse nonsense, that he ought not to believe it. Now, he's a pretty well-hitched-up fellow up top, with mathematics and all that kind of stuff, and I knew that a frivolous answer would come back to me one day and hit me on the head, because he'd do the research and come and say, you're stupid, this is all rubbish, what you said is rubbish, look at this, this. So I decided to actually do the research into this before I gave him an answer, and that answer took 37 years. Because the more I looked into this, and I have a background on scientific methodologies and so on, when I decided to look at it, cast away all my prejudices, whatever I had, try my best, a very difficult thing to do, by the way, and looked at this as straight as I possibly could, and I discovered an incredible situation was presenting itself, that this business of UFOs and all of that, not only is something out there, it is also something that out there, so to speak, like, the old comics and stuff we were all brought up with and so on. It actually is something deeply powerful, deeply profound, and connects up with the thing we all don't like to believe these days through what science has brought us. It connects up very powerfully with religion. Now, I am not a religious person, full stop. However, I came to see, and I think my colleagues too were not religious. Dr. Silverman is Jewish, and I believe John Biggerstaff at one time had a very strong affinity with the Baha'i faith. He's English, but he was interested in more the esoteric side of things in terms of that direction. And I was, somebody threw some water on me when I was a baby and called me a Catholic. So you see, we have all this kind of stuff, and then we grew up a little bit and decided that this is all this is all folly, believing in the kinds of, superstitions that came through, and looked at things much more openly. However, in looking and doing the research into UFOs, you wouldn't think there was a connection, would you really, Ian, with this business? Off the top of your head, you'd think this is absolute nonsense. But I tell you, it connects up extremely strongly to the entire gamut of all belief all through the centuries and millennia. I mean by that, all types of people, be they, Stone Age man or whatever. It all comes down to a mechanism that kind of binds all of us up in a, if you like, a total religion. Now, Andrew wants to come in here for a moment.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I mean, the thing is, the problem is when we say the word religion, people associate it very much with organized religion. And this is where people like Richard Dawkins start spouting off about, there can't be a God because the religions talk about this this vengeful, hating, jealous God, and what kind of God would that be? That's something we've made in our own image. Well, in a way, he's got a point that is what people have done, but that's actually not what the great teachers like the Buddha and Jesus were actually referring to at all. This is just something that man has made afterwards because of various political reasons and so on to make it easier to control people. Whereas actually, if you look at what they said, that these teachers, they were never actually trying to get people to follow dogma. If you, for example, Buddha said, "Don't believe anything I say just because I said it. Test it for yourself." And Jesus never said he'd come to start a religion. He just said he'd come to bear witness to the truth. Yet people have built these structures around it that really are a big distortion against what the original people who founded, who started talking in those terms were. And I think I would obviously don't claim as people like Hawking to know the mind of God, but I would hazard a guess that God isn't religious.
Yes, and the point is that the whole thing went pear-shaped when they tried, I think, to make this some organizational function. And once you did that, you corrupted the entire ethos of what the great minds were saying originally. And they would tie in most beautifully with humanism and New Age outlooks and all the rest of it. And that's what I began to see, that this is not really anything to do with a formalized structuralism, if you see what I'm saying, that somehow there are these basic tenets, existential tenets. You are there, I am here. It's better to be here than not here, because if you're not, it's nil. That kind of logic. 1 + 1 = 1 + 1, not 2. And I'm saying that from a mathematician's point of view, if you like. It really is something we try to look at very, very clearly. And whilst Dr. Biggerstaff and Dr. Silverman have collaborated over the years in ideas and so on, and kind of we discussed it and passed it through our various disciplines and so forth, to try and come at people and say, now look, science is saying this, religion is saying this, many, many people are saying other things and so forth. Where does the punter go in the middle of this entire, this field, this morass, if you like, of opinion? Where does the ordinary fellow go to look for some kind of harbor, some kind of mind sense that makes him understand why he's there, or what we're doing in this place in the first place? What is the universe here for? Whatever, So that goes into all different directions. I think you can see it builds when you connect up the dots. It builds up a consensus that is very, very wide indeed. And we hope that I wrote the books really as an answer to my son's question. And, of course, when I started writing, I thought it would be quite a simple exercise. But as I did the research and I began to find affirmations, for instance, I never believed in UFOs, as I said, in the first place. But when you get people of very high magnitude, observational powers, policemen, astronauts, whatever, coming and standing testament to the fact that these things actually do exist in our reality terms, not specters or ghosts or heebie-jeebies or whatever, we then have to say, what on earth are these things? They can switch off atomic codes. I don't know if recently you listened to you've seen the stuff on this.
I have.
Carter, I'm sure you have.
Yes.
And you can imagine now, the real problem is the political one, really. How on earth do they wipe all this stuff off the mainstream so that almost